Hey YouTube, welcome to another Destiny 2 subclass build guide. Today we are diving deep into the fiery world of the Warlock solar subclass. Get ready to harness the power of Sun itself and rain down destruction upon your enemies. Whether you are a seasoned Warlock or just starting out, this guide will help you master the solar subclass and become a force to be reckoned with. To master the power of this build, you need a few tips and tricks. So watch this video until the end. Before we dive deep into the build, there are a few passives you need to know. Four things that are passively present in this subclass. If you already know about it, you can skip ahead through the timestamps in the description. There are two types of debuffs and two types of buffs. The two types of buff being Restoration and Radiant. While Restoration is active, you regenerate health and shields over time. The healing effect is really strong. On times 2, you can live through almost any kind of damage. Radiant is a buff in which your weapon deals increased damage to combatants. Then there are two types of debuffs which you can place on enemies. First one is Scorch. It is basically a burn effect. Enemies burn over time when you apply Scorch on them. There are different ways to apply Scorch on enemies, which we will discuss in this build. Then there is Ignite, which is basically an explosion which occurs after a certain amount of Scorch stacks are placed on enemies. To be precise, placing 100 Scorch stacks on an enemy ignites him. Now that we are clear on the passive buffs and debuffs, let's dive deep into the subclass, what aspects you need, and fragments to choose from. Even though Bungie has buffed Dawnblade, but Well of Radiance still tends to be one of the best super indies. You thrust your sword into the ground, creating an aura which continuously provides you restoration, i.e. healing, and radiance, i.e. damage buff. Class ability. Healing rifts are generally the first choice of most people playing on Warlock, but in this build, we will take advantage of Phoenix Dive class ability. When you use Phoenix Dive, you cure nearby allies, plus if your Heat Rises aspect is active, you gain restoration while diving on targets and scorch nearby enemies, which helps in providing restoration times 2. Melee ability. Incinerator Snap is what we are going to use for this build. The Snap melee ability scorches targets. The range on this is not that great, but it covers a large amount of area. Even if you miss the target in front of you, chances are one of the burning sparks will end up hitting someone, and the way it synergizes with Phoenix Dive is crisp. For grenades, use solar grenades. Now, aspects. For our first aspect, we will use Touch of Flame. It gives your grenade enhanced functionalities. In our case, it will boost the duration of solar grenade, and solar grenades will emit blobs of lava around its perimeter. The lava blobs also scorches target, and with enough scorch stacks, you end up igniting targets. For our second aspect, we are going to use Heat Rises. Apart from all the benefits of Heat Rises, our purpose of using Heat Rises is because it allows Phoenix Dive to proc restoration, scorch targets upon landing, and grant melee energy upon getting final blows while airborne. Imperial will extend your restoration and radiant effect timer on solar ability or weapon kills. Searing will feed you melee energy upon defeating scorch targets, and it gives you 10 plus recovery, and recovery on warlocks lower your class ability cooldown. Ashes will increase the number of scorch stacks you apply to a target. Ashes fragment makes anything that applies scorch stacks to apply 50% more scorch stacks. If your grenade applies 40 scorch stack base, with Ember of Ashes it will apply 60. So you will be able to ignite enemies more often. Ember of Singeing. It will help your class ability regeneration. In our case, Phoenix Dive to recharge faster when you scorch targets. And with a few armor mods and knowing how to play around this build, you'll never run into a problem of not having a Phoenix Dive in critical situations. Exotic armor. Sunbracer will be our exotic armor for this build. Sunbracers are massive for this build. It increases the duration of solar grenades, and on melee kills it grants you 20,000% regeneration rate for your solar grenades, so you will be able to throw maximum of 5 grenades per melee kill. Stat distribution wise, be on 100 resilience, try getting your grenade to 100 if possible, and your recovery as high as possible. As you can see, I don't have this build on triple 100 setup, but this build slaps in every PvE activity. Mods recommendation: on your helmet, put a heavy ammo finder and Ashes to Acid, which will feed you super energy. And as you'll be spamming grenades with Sunbracer, Ashes super return is massive. On your gauntlet, use Ball String Detonation, which grants you class ability energy when you cause damage with grenades. Use Firepower so that you will be able to create orbs on grenade kills. Then use Focusing Strike, which will also feed you class ability energy when you cause damage with your melee ability. For your chest armor, use resist mods according to your requirements, change them on the basis of which type of enemy you are facing. Then use a charge up mod to increase the maximum number of armor charge. On leg armor, use recuperation so that each time you pick an orb, it restores your HP. Recuperation restores 70 HP for each orb you pick. Then a loader or a scavenger mod for your power weapon. Then a surge mod for your weapon. And for your class item, use 2 powerful attraction which collects all orb in a radius each time you use your class ability. Then a time dilation mod to increase the decay of armor charges. Weapon recommendation. Honestly, you can use anything. This build is not limited by weapons, but to add on to this build, you can use a weapon with incandescent, although it is not necessary. Now finally, how to use this build efficiently. As you can see in the gameplay, I always save my grenade to activate heat rises. So for your first grenade, consume it to activate heat rises. Then find a bunch of red barred enemies. Jump up and use your incinerator snap. And as your sparks from your incinerator snap lands, use phoenix dive, which will further place cost tax on combatants, resulting in an ignition. But the ignition that happens counts towards your melee kill, so it procs your sunbracer exotic perk. Then just spam grenades while floating, and because you use your phoenix dive to proc ignition, it will also proc restoration times 2 and increase the timer to 12 seconds. Now just keep throwing grenades, which will scorch target, resulting in you getting melee and class ability energy. Your Phoenix type cooldown is massively affected by Scorch, Pulse Ring Detonation mod, and Focusing Strike. So you are constantly regenerating ability energy when you are using the loop effectively. If in some cases you don't have your grenade to proc heat rises, just kill enemies with your melee, then consume your grenade and just continue with the loop. Just remember, Guardians, this build requires a little practice to master, but once you have mastered this build, you will never take it off. Just have patience, try learning the strength of this build, and conquer the realm of destiny. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed this video as much as I did while making it, drop a massive thumbs up below. And if you are new here, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our future gaming escapades. This is the Sub signing off. See you in the virtual realm, Guardian.